How would you react if everything you knew about your family was a mystery? Patty Duke was America's sweetheart. On The Patty Duke Show, she dazzled with her Oscar-winning ability. But behind the veil, life was full of emotional battles, tumultuous relationships, and deep personal challenges for Patty. Bold, unpredictable, and tormented she was. In the midst of upheaval, a baby boy was raised with affection, but haunted by one difficult question. For years, Patty's son Sean Astin was mired in a paternity issue that even her couldn't solve. Her young Hollywood boyfriend, her hardly known spouse, or the man who reared Sean as his own. It took decades, 3 possible dads, and a stunning DNA test to reveal the truth. The answer was shocking. Nobody expected it. Patty Duke's issues. To understand why this is one of Hollywood's most convoluted stories, you must know who Patty Duke was. This story doesn't begin with Sean Astin, her son. It begins with a teenage girl who grew up in front of the cameras, lived 1,000 lifetimes, and left a beautiful tangled legacy. On July 4th, kid actress Patty Duke lighted up Hollywood like fireworks. She began acting at 8 years old and was already considered one of America's most outstanding young actors by her early teens. In 1962, she played Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker, her breakout role. She became the youngest Best Supporting Actress Oscar winner at 16 years old. While most kids her age worried about math homework, Patty gave Oscar speeches. She became famous after playing identical cousins Patty and Kathy Lane on The Patty Duke Show. It was delightful, witty, and hugely successful. Despite her celebrity and charisma, Patty's life was far from perfect. Without the world knowing, Patty suffered silently and brutally for years. She was manipulated by supervisors, who dominated her childhood. She was made famous, overworked, and manipulated. She then said those managers mistreated her. Nothing was done because she had no voice or protection back then. As she aged, cracks appeared, suffered from dramatic mood swings, extreme highs and lows, and unpredictable conduct that no one could explain. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder years later and freely discussed it in her later years as a militant mental health champion. Patty was declining in the 1960s and 1970s, and nobody knew why. Unfortunately, her love life was as tumultuous as her mental condition. She fell hard and fast in love. Thus, her relationships were strong, brief, and perplexing. Her early 20s saw many romances and marriages, some lasting only a week. However, she often entered partnerships during her manic periods when she was energetic, impetuous, and emotionally motivated. Unfortunately, as the mood changed, so did everything else, and love typically turned to mayhem quickly. Unfortunately, this whirlwind of romance, heartbreak, and instability led to one of her biggest riddles and a question that would torment her for decades. A boy was born in 1971. Births are usually joyful, but Patty's was a Hollywood scandal. Why? Because no one, even Patty, knew the father. You see, Patty was dating numerous men simultaneously. Her timing was hazy, her recollection was imperfect, and her emotions were erratic. You must remember that her mental health was untreated, unmedicated, and misunderstood. She was briefly married to one man, associated with another, and emotionally attached to a third. Sean's biological father could have been 3 different individuals. However, Patty's claim that she knew who it was caused the issue. Naturally, tabloids thrived, rumors spread, headlines guessed. Everyone wanted to know her child's father. This story was more than tabloid gossip because of its emotional weight. Not just a Hollywood diva, Patty caused controversy. She fought a private fight with her mental health, memories, and relationships. Thus, she assumed she was answering her son correctly, but over time, even Sean began to doubt his mother's narrative. Who's Sean Astin? On February 25, 1971, Patty Duke's baby son was born. He would become a beloved actor, a family man, and, unbeknownst to him, the center of one of Hollywood's most puzzling paternity mysteries. You may recognize Sean Patrick Astin as Mikey from The Goonies. Even as a child, he was remarkable. Sean grew slowly, without burning out or folding under pressure, unlike previous child stars. That alone is unique in Hollywood. After landing Samwise Gamgee, his Hollywood career altered. Most people focused on Elijah Wood, Viggo Mortensen, or Ian McKellen when the Lord of the Rings films were revealed. As the trilogy progressed, it was Sean Sam who steals the story silently. He became famous in the industry this way. Despite that, Sean never sought celebrity. He didn't seek tabloid fame or Hollywood scandals. While others lost their way in stardom, he stayed grounded as the son of a famous actress. He received a non-acting Academy Award nomination. He directed and co-produced 1995's Best Live-Action Short Film. Nominee, Kangaroo Court. Many don't know he did it. He reappeared in Stranger Things as usual. Again, he stole the spotlight. Most people didn't know that while he was successful in Hollywood, his personal life was even more problematic than expected. Sean carried a burden and a question for years, so he determined to find answers. Sean Astin's potential fathers. From the moment he was born, his life was full with questions, and even his mother, Patty, didn't know who his father was. He was born, thus she had to answer the world, despite paternity doubts. Michael Tell, the least probable and most odd of Patty's three men, is first. Michael Tell was a little-known writer and music promoter. He met Patty Duke in 1970 when subletting her apartment during a difficult time in her life. Their affair was brief, not a relationship. It was hardly a friendship. But then something odd happened. Patty got pregnant. She rushed to marry Michael Tell out of concern about the rumors and scandal. They married civilly. Without gloss or glamour, she made a swift, almost panicky move to safeguard her reputation. Unfortunately, the marriage lasted barely 13 days. Patty annulled the marriage and claimed it had nothing to do with love or commitment. It was a cover-up. She rejected Michael Tell as Sean's father for years. She said they never consummated. She saw him as a name on a piece of paper, a mistake she soon corrected. Michael Tell returns in the most surprising way. Desi Arnaz Jr. was Patty's next man. Desi was born to Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz Sr. He was Hollywood royalty, a heartthrob, a musician, and an actor from I Love Lucy. He was young when he met Patty Duke. Their romance was a massive scandal. The media was intrigued by their age difference and her emotional fragility. Some accounts said Lucille Ball was furious about the romance and sought to halt it. Her adolescent son shouldn't be involved in a dangerous, unstable affair, she thought. Patty believed Desi was the one. She claimed Desi was Sean's biological father for years. Initially, the theory seemed sense. The timing was right. Desi never claimed Sean as his kid, but he didn't deny the claims. He kept quiet to avoid drama and media attention. Sean's early childhood was centered on his mother being a famous actress and his father being Lucy and Desi's kid. He was convinced until he discovered the awful truth. And then, John Astin, better known as Gomez Addams, from the Addams family, gave Sean his surname. Patty Duke married John Astin in the mid-1970s and raised Sean. John legally adopted Sean, giving him his last name to everyone, even Sean. John was his dad. One more son, actor Mackenzie Astin, was born to John and Patty. For years, their family seemed stable and affectionate. Despite the rough start, Patty found tranquility. John was dependable and nice. As a child, Sean loved John Astin and felt he was his biological father. But concerns and questions didn't appear till later in life. But Patty Duke changed her account numerous times over the years, making things even more difficult. She initially told Sean that John Aston was his father, but later changed her mind and said Desi Arnaz Jr. Sometimes she'd dismiss both and faintly recommend someone else. Many outsiders thought she was evasive. Her loved ones knew the truth. They knew Patty wasn't lying. She was lost. She had trouble recalling events from those tumultuous years due to her bipolar disease. Unfortunately, her shame over not knowing the answer tormented her. She loved Sean deeply but couldn't offer him closure. For Sean, it was devastating. He adored his mother. He revered his father, John Aston. He was curious about Desi Arnaz Jr. Later, the confusion got to him, and he just wanted to know who he was. He was even more skeptical when he met a relative of Michael Tell who said they were related. This exacerbated the difficult issue. When the whispers got louder and the inquiries kept coming, he determined to find out. He bravely took a DNA test, not out of spite or bitterness. He did it for curiosity, closure, and respect for himself and the men who had shaped his life. What followed changed his life and identity. When Sean finally got the nerve to start the DNA test, it was awkward. He had to contact John Aston, Desi Arnaz Jr., and Michael Tell, whom he hardly knew. Michael was absent for decades. He and Patty split before they were married, and their marriage was a flurry and mystery. Sean remained polite, respectful, and direct. He was lucky Michael and the other men took the test. The waiting period began after the test. Sean was stressed as days felt like weeks.